what are we doing? I guess, we're a middle-aged couple whose kids have grown up, left home, and we are recently moved onto a boat and we're sailing around the Med, and we have also longer term plans, and hopefully to sail around the world, but at the moment this is a fairly new thing, so we've got as far as Spain, having started in France. Maybe we'll end up getting as far as South Pacific, maybe Australia, and we'll see. It's a new lifestyle, a whole new way of living, and we're trying not to have too many plans. Having had years and years of agendas and schedules, we're trying to live each day kind of more as it comes.
The most rewarding thing is arriving in a nice little bay where you pick a little spot and you think you can be happy here for a few days. You can jump off board and swim, paddleboard, go to a restaurant or not, do whatever you like for a few days, and this kind of lifestyle is, this is what I like about it. It's not like this all the time, of course. It's interspersed because you have to go around, you have to do mundane things, but this kind of arriving in a little bay which is just perfect, water and the sun is shining, and you can just enjoy this for, however you like, without any plans and, without any deadlines, and we can enjoy time together. It's, it's lovely. I like it.
Why Lagoon 400? We didn't actually pick a Lagoon 400. We started life as monohull sailors, very much enjoyed sailing monohulls, and for years we thought we were going to buy a Jeanneau 42, 41, 42, 40, 40S. And we'd kind of decided on that, and we'd done a 2-month charter on a Sun Odyssey 439, which is pretty much the same thing as a 40, 40S. So we set our heart on that, and then a couple of things happened that kind of influenced that. The first one was that we started watching a lot of YouTube sailing channels and getting a better understanding of the fact there are so many different types of boats, and not all boats are good for all things, and that you've really got to decide what are the important aspects for what you want to do. And then the second thing that happened was a bit more specific, in that I ended up through chance going on a test sail on a catamaran in France. And on the test sail, the first thing that happened was it was fairly benign conditions, 15, 20 knots of wind. Suddenly we were doing 10 knots. Now, doing 10 knots is quite nice, but the interesting part about doing 10 knots that we were doing 10 knots with absolutely no drama. So there was no heeling over. If we wanted to make a cup of tea, it was dead easy. And so I came home from this test sail and said to Simone, right, that's it, we have to have a catamaran. Lots of discussion followed. Obviously it's a lot more expensive than a monohull, both to buy and to maintain. And then we started looking at, well, if we're going to buy a catamaran, do we want a performance catamaran or do we want a more kind of cruising catamaran? It's pretty obvious from the start that we wanted a cruising catamaran. And there was actually one other statistic I remember from a Delos episode from a very long time ago, where Delos said, and Delos have done over 70,000 miles sailing around the world, they said they looked at their statistics and that they spend 95% of their time at anchor. And that really made me think, it's great to have maybe a heavy displacement monohull if you're stuck in an ocean in a Force 8, which hopefully you're not. But if you spend 95% of your time on anchor, which would you prefer? A floating apartment or a monohull that's going to swing around? So that made us buy a catamaran. A Lagoon 400 specifically, we wanted a Lagoon for a few reasons. First of all, we hope that we're going to do this for many years, but if for any reason, medical situation otherwise, we can't, and we want to sell it, a Lagoon would be easy to sell. We looked at a couple of custom catamarans, very nice, very sexy, probably impossible to resell. We originally ordered a Lagoon 42, which is the latest model. That fell through because our house sale fell through. And we could have then ordered another one and waited 18 months, but we really didn't want to. So this one just came on the market. This was a boat, 3-month-old boat that somebody had ordered to a very high spec and suddenly had to get rid of. So it was a very good price. And yes, okay, it's not the latest model, and the differences between this and a 42 are a few, but it is a great living space that also will take us, largely speaking, most of the places we want to go.
My parents are a bit more cautious. They're no sailors, so they don't really know what's involved, and that kind of unknown makes them a bit scared sometimes. So they're a bit more anxious, but otherwise other people just think it's fantastic, living an adventure, going out doing things, and everybody just thinks it's great, and we come and see you, and no, I think it overwhelmingly kind of positive response to this kind of idea of selling everything and living on a boat. I don't think anybody of our friends would actually do it themselves, but they're definitely positive about it.
The most challenging thing we've faced to date, I think, is quite simply Simone breaking her hip. So after a few months on board, nothing to do with sailing, but unfortunately just breaking a hip in a bicycle accident, meaning that we suddenly couldn't live on the boat. So having moved onto the boat and found our dream home, we then quickly realised that it was impossible to live on a boat with somebody who couldn't even get on and off the boat. So we were then faced with kind of moving off the boat for a while. That was pretty tough. In a way now, maybe it's made it even more sweeter that we've been able to get back on board and kind of resume our travels. But I think that from a lifestyle point of view, and then from a sailing point of view, crossing Biscay, it was the most challenging thing from a sailing point of view, although it was a pretty good passage. Neither of us are hugely experienced sailors, so a good experience, but tough. Good job we had help. I think for anybody who's considering the cruising lifestyle, I would suggest to try it first. There are a lot of YouTube sailing channels that will portray the sailing lifestyle. Many of them will portray it in a very favourable light and maybe gloss over the fact that there's quite a lot of work to do to live this lifestyle, and that the romantic side of it, as Simone's just described, it's fantastic to be in a beautiful bay with turquoise water and rays swimming under the boat, but there are also times when you're seasick or things break and you're scared, and a lot of things you take for granted on land aren't there. So try it first, go sailing with other people, and then see if you like it. I would also suggest that if you're somebody who would prefer to have a hassle-free life, where perhaps you've got other people that are taking care of the more mundane things, you might be better suited to kind of, depending on budget, to having a boat with crew. If you're more oriented towards enjoying DIY and fixing things and a bit more adventurous, then the cruising lifestyle is probably more for you. But definitely try before you buy.
Think it through what it means on a daily basis, on mundane things to do, how to do cooking, cleaning, getting stuff, shopping, what happens if somebody falls ill, all those things that are kind of in place when you live in a house on land somewhere where everything is kind of arranged. There's a system for everything. You have to kind of reinvent it again on board for yourself and make sure that it suits you. And it can be a bit more difficult than you think to, if you don't think it through to start with. Everything takes a little bit longer than it would in a house. That's my advice. Or as a first tip. Also, when you as Peter said, you should try it out. You should definitely try it out in an environment where you're not getting everything done for you, like on a cruise ship or something. You really have to be in an environment where you have to, recreate what you would think you would do in a few years' time. So really recreate it in that kind of scenario and see if you can live with that. Because sometimes it can sometimes be a bit frustrating, and if that is too much, then that lifestyle is not for you, really.
Where are we going to end up is in a way the question that is a non-question, because it's kind of cliche. It's about the journey rather than the destination. So, having said that, we'll probably end up, I hope we'll end up in Australia. I think if we can successfully cross the Atlantic, spend some time in the Caribbean, and get to the South Pacific, I think for us that would be hugely enjoyable and a huge achievement. Whether we would take this boat any further, Indian Ocean, unlikely. So I think that's the current thinking. Lots of cruisers tend to do that, and then they either stop or then they decide they're going to do crazy stuff like the Northwest Passage or kind of high latitude sailing. I'm not sure we would head that way, and we're not getting any younger, so I can imagine that we'll actually end up back in the Med in Greece, probably spending 3 months in the same port.
So far, the journey. Mixed bag. We spent some time living on the boat in Les Sables in France on the west coast in the winter, which was quite cold. We made it cozy. It was okay. So that's very different. With hardly any sailing in there. We did one kind of sailing trip. That was the winter, and then taking it down to the Med and trying to go along the south coast of Spain. Also, all very different conditions. So I got a whole bag of different sailing experiences as well through that. All very rewarding. I think I quite liked it. And now here in the Yachts, again, totally different from all the other places we've been before. And yeah, hopefully I think it continues like that, where you arrive, you think, oh, this is something new, we haven't done that before, we haven't been there before, there's something else we can learn here. That's the part of the journey.
I think there's a mix of feelings, isn't there? There's certainly huge anticipation, excitement, but also nerves. We are doing something that's does require attention, focus, concentration, or you might end up in difficult circumstances. So there's a little bit of nerves there, and we're not hugely experienced sailors. So I think we're looking forward to learning together. But yeah, it's there's the aspect of challenge as well as enjoying the turquoise blue water.
Sailing in the Med is so far great, but you have this, but what you do in the winter, if you don't get out of the Med, but you stay in the Med, so you have to find a place where you live on board for the whole winter, and we don't know yet whether we actually do that or not. So not sure if that is actually something we want to do, or if it becomes too boring, or we have to break it up, do something else. Ideally we would just continue sailing, but of course you can't. It's winter and you have to stop here in the Med. So this is definitely just a summer situation at the moment.
I think I would say to anybody that's thinking about doing this that it's highly achievable on many different levels, but it takes a long time to get where you want to be. So assuming you're somebody who's not done much sailing, you should be thinking in terms of a few years before you want to do it, to start preparing, both in terms of getting sufficient sailing experience. Just buying a boat may take you 6, 12, 18 months. Preparing your previous life took us 18 months, 2 years. Then when you get the boat, you're going to need another few months to get the boat as you need. So plan ahead, make sure you have enough time to do it. We have met a few people who've tried to do it fast, and it's really not very enjoyable. A lot of stress, a lot more problems, and we found that taking it slowly has made it more enjoyable. So plan ahead and do it.